Let's talk about why I decided to go cruelty free. If you are new around here, hi, hello, my name is Haley. I am a theater and music teacher and performer, and on my little cozy corner of the internet, we find ways to make life more magical even when it doesn't feel particularly magical. All right, so this topic I get like super passionate about really fast and very easily. So this may not be like the most lighthearted video in the world. So let me start off by saying I am nowhere near perfect. Like, let's just put that out there from the jump. I am not fully cruelty free in every aspect of my life. We're still trying to get cruelty free in terms of like cleaning supplies and everything. I feel like that is probably like the hardest spot is the household item. So I fully started to make the switch to go cruelty free in about 2015, I believe. I think that's kind of like when the process started. What really fueled it was I was writing a paper for a writing class. I believe it was a journalism class, if I'm not mistaken. And the topic that I chose to write on was a campaign that the like Lush UK folks did, where they actually in a like shop window in like one of the busiest parts of London, they had actors come out and like perform what animal testing looks like within labs, and performed it in the shop window. And it's obviously disgusting, and it was a very like riveting campaign and video, and then having to deep dive and do some research on it to write a several page paper really opened my eyes. I will say, if you are somebody like me who is very sensitive to cruelty in any like shape or form, I don't recommend looking up that video. It is a deeply unsettling thing to watch. However, if you are looking for a very riveting and intense wake-up call, perhaps that's for you. The thing that I think was kind of like the final nail in the coffin for me was when I worked for a specific cosmetic company in 2016 to 2017 that did in fact test on animals. And not only like did they test on animals, but they were also like absolutely terrible to their employees as well. And as many of you know, I worked for Lush, my God, off and on for 7 years, which is a very wild thing to say. It's also still pretty wild that I don't work for Lush anymore, which is a sidebar. And if you are a Lushie in any capacity, you would know about Charity Pot / like the Charity Pot program with Lush. A company / charity that Lush partnered with at the time was the Beagle Freedom Project. And that is personally like one of my favorite charities to support in general. They were like before I started with Lush, because I've always loved beagles. They've always been like one of my favorite dog breeds. And learning about the ins and outs of exactly what animal testing means and what exactly happens in those labs when I worked at Lush myself, that's where it really started to like tug on my heartstrings. Because Beagle Freedom Project, they go in and rescue specifically beagles from places that are animal testing, specifically on beagles. The reason why beagles are often chosen as a breed to animal test on is because of how trusting they are. When I learned that as a dog mom to 2 beagle mixes that are like my whole world, no lip gloss or eyeliner, like was worth it. I couldn't look at my dogs and have the realization that they could be tested on, because they do trust. They love people like so much. And that was a very, very earth-shattering, bone-chilling realization to have. So many major cosmetic companies test on animals. Big makeup brands that test on animals in the drugstore space that really shocked me. L'Oreal is one, Maybelline, Revlon. Like, those are like 3 biggies in terms of makeup. If we're talking skincare, the one that really shot deep for me was Cetaphil and Cerave. Both test on animals. And that just sucks because so many derms recommend those brands specifically. In the luxury or higher end side of things, Giorgio Armani, Dior, the major like luxury houses, you can usually count that they will be testing on animals. But like some of the brands that are like at Sephora, like NARS, Benefit, those are like big ones that still test on animals. Something that I could very easily like write a whole like paper about, could easily like make a separate video, is so many of the like more affordable brands at the drugstore test on animals, and it doesn't sit right with me, because not only like are you harming innocent animals, but you're also taking advantage of like your clientele, and a lot of your clientele are people of color, people who are disabled, folks that aren't in the place to buy luxury makeup, and so on and so forth. So it is just this cycle of abuse, and it's so gross, and it icks me out, and I very well might make like a whole video about it, because like I could talk about that side of it for hours. So now let's talk about some of my favorite brands that are cruelty free. So if we are talking like in general, my favorite makeup brands that do not test on animals: Mob Beauty. Like everything I've tried from Mob, obsessed. Love everything that I've tried from them. Ritual de Fille, who do like some of my other like favorite cream products. I love them as well. Like most of my like foundation routine is from them. I love Glossier. I love Milk Makeup. And if we want to talk about drugstore, Milani is one of my favorite makeup brands. ColourPop does not test on animals. Elf does not test on animals. Juvia's Place does not test on animals. About Face. What am I forgetting? I feel like I'm forgetting something. I feel like those are the big ones. Yeah, Elf, ColourPop, NYX is another one of my favorite like makeup brands. The Ulta brand does not test on animals, but Sephora brand does. Just FYI. That was something that was actually pretty shocking to me. Another good one is Essence. Essence does not test on animals. In terms of skincare, The Ordinary, Bioma, Coco Kind, Good Molecules, and Lush. Like, those are the big ones. I will also go through and tag some of my favorite cruelty-free content creators. I live, breathe, and die like by their recommendations. And I will also link some of my favorite resources in terms of finding out if a company is cruelty-free. I will leave that down below as well. So that is my spiel on being cruelty-free, which like takes time and doesn't happen overnight. So like, don't stress if you need to like use through products, like one in, one out kind of rule. Drop some of your favorite cruelty-free products below. Drop some of your favorite cruelty-free creators down below. Always looking for like lovely, like-minded people to follow here on the internet. But yeah, awesome. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.